Hey guys, my name is Anthony and in today's video I'm going to be talking over the Belgium GP for WOR, also known as World Online Racing, Round 7. So if you do end up enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button to let me know that you guys are still enjoying F1 2020 League racing. But get straight into this one. This one I knew was going to be a very difficult one for me because I'd actually just finished coming from a break. Pretty much I had some personal issues outside of YouTube and Twitch and all of that, and I ended up going to see my family as a break for about a week. So I hadn't actually touched the game for about a week at this point, and I knew coming into this it was going to be very difficult because obviously other people had the time to practice if they wanted to, whereas I couldn't because I was in London, whereas you guys know by now I live in Scotland. So because of that, I knew this was definitely going to be a tricky one, especially qualifying. As you guys already know, when it comes to qualifying, I can never really seem to get one lap just perfect, and I always just end up screwing it up in some way, shape or form. And obviously with a break I knew it was going to be even worse. But as you can see right now, we're actually going over our fastest lap, which was pretty early on compared to where I would want to get my fastest lap. Of course, it was in the middle of the session, and the reason for that is because at the end I tried to go for 2 runs just to see if I could make it, and you guys will see later on in the qualifying session that I didn't. But as we actually get into the actual lap now, you can see it's not really been committed in certain areas, and we actually took too much curb going into No Name. P1 was actually okay, it was actually pretty decent, except again just a little bit more aggression probably would have gained me at least, you know, maybe half a tenth. And here we could have gained a little bit more time because we just didn't take enough curb going into the 2 corners, and we just didn't take enough curb going from the actual exit of those corners as well. But as you can see, for the middle sector we did a 13.2, which for my standards is pretty slow for the middle sector at Spa. I want to be doing high 12s, because if I'm doing high 12s then I know exactly that I'm on pace for what I know I can do, which is roughly a high 40 here at Spa. But as we come up to the final corners, which is the bus stop chicane, brake a little bit too early there, and that does compromise us a little bit through there because we're going a bit too slow. But as we cross the actual line now, we do a 1 minute 41.3, so
better than that.
Compared to what I actually knew I could do, we've roughly lost about half a second, which would have been the difference between where we ended up finishing qualifying and potentially pole as well. So yeah, as you guys can see, I was trying to do 2 runs and I just didn't have enough time. We were just slightly short on time, and as you can see from the qualifying session, now we ended up in P7 with Bomboy actually doing a 1 minute 40.8, which is roughly around about where I knew I could be. So yeah, we could have potentially gotten pole or at least P2, but sadly we didn't. We ended up in P7. And going into the actual race strategy now is Spa. You guys already know Spa is a very easy soft to mediums, so let's get actually into the race now and see what happens. So we've got 5 red lights and away we go. We didn't really get the best start. Again, traction just wasn't that great. Again, I was rusty because I hadn't played the game in pretty much a week at this point, and yeah, we ended up losing 1 position going into the first corner to Humperdinck, and the other Williams of Alex Idegu also tried to sort of barge past us as well and get the position, but we was not having it at all. I wanted to at least keep the position from one of the Williams instead of losing it to both of them. Obviously the 2 William drivers, I think they are doing pretty well in the Constructors' Championship this season, whereas me personally, I've had probably one of the worst seasons imaginable. I've had so many different just outside forces that have just stopped me from racing at every race. For example, the COVID vaccine, I got that done the day before the Bahrain race, and then for the Silverstone race, I believe that was when I was having those personal issues and I missed those as well. So there's been a lot of things going on this season which has basically made me lose points. That's not really in my control. I've had my internet obviously cut out on me as well. You guys probably know about that incident as well. So yeah, not the best season, but we're still trying to just maximize the points that we can get from each individual race that we actually do race in, and that's exactly what I wanted to do here. Spa was definitely a strong track for me. The last time we raced at Spa pretty much had the best final lap battle that I've ever had in league racing, and we ended up finishing in P3, so I definitely knew that I had the pace around here to actually get a podium. So as long as we actually have a solid drive, then yeah, definitely gonna at least probably get in top 5, maybe even another podium here. So yeah, I wanted to talk about track limits real quick, because on this game it's just so bad. Sometimes, you know, you'll go through a corner, maybe you go a little bit wide or you cut the corner a little bit too much and it doesn't give you a warning, and then other times it does. Obviously it's risky to do that, that, but at the same time you will lose a lot of time if you don't do that. So I kind of wish that there was sort of like an in-between, strict and regular, that was a little bit more lenient than strict but also still strict. But yeah, sadly strict is all we've really got, to be honest, and for me personally it's not really the best in terms of actual track limits. It's very inconsistent. But right now, as you guys can see, we are in a DRS train. Spa's always known for DRS trains, and you can see that Sam ended up getting wing damage. He was actually further towards the front, and yeah, once you get wing damage at Spa, because people are so fine-tuned with this track, it's a track that people race at quite a lot, you're gonna lose a lot of time. So Sam's race is pretty much over, and as you can see, all the way to lap 7 is where we end up skipping to, because we're pretty much just in a DRS train behind Humperdinck, and some of the guys did end up pitting before us. They were going for the undercut. We decided to just stay out and pit when we was originally going to, was roughly around about lap 7, lap 8, and that's exactly what we end up doing, right behind Humperdinck. So yeah, the first stint, it was obviously fairly decent. DRS trains are unavoidable. You do want to be in the DRS train though, especially if you're not towards the front, because if you're not, you're going to end up losing a lot of time to the guys who are ahead of you in the DRS train. So we managed to stick into it, and because of that we ended up having a pretty good first stint, and you can see that Sam's now behind us for roughly about 5 seconds. So yeah, he's on the hard tires, he's behind us by 5 seconds. There's no way that he's going to end up getting past us during this race. So pretty much we know that we can at least keep the position from Sam and just focus right now on the main person who I wanted to focus on, which was Humperdinck. And as we move on to lap 11 now, this is where Humperdinck makes his move. We ended up catching up to LGS, and because of that I'm now the third car in the DRS train, and you guys know how bad it can be being the third car in the DRS train. So I'm going to have to work on really getting past LGS, as Humperdinck himself actually gets past LGS as well. And I wanted to keep up with Humperdinck because for me, he was my main rival going into this race. I knew that, you know, he's got roughly similar pace to mine. So if I can beat him, then at least that's a good standing in my own books, my own personal books. So I wanted to try and keep up with him as much as possible. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to pass LGS. But once again, being the third car in a DRS train is one of the worst things ever, because the guy ahead of you has DRS as well, and even if you use overtake, like how I was using a bit of overtake here as well, we just still really didn't have enough in straight line speed to really have a huge advantage over LGS and actually make the move. But as we come up to the end of lap 12 now, we have a lot more ERS than LGS. You saw the red flashing lights, which means he had under 10%, and because of that I decided to use that to my advantage. Well, ERS management has actually been very, very good this race. Definitely a lot better than it was at Zand 4 at least. So I'm definitely improving in that regards, and we do make the move on LGS. So now we can really focus on pushing, continuing to push, so that we can actually pass Humperdinck as well. And as we skip right now to lap 14, that's exactly what we managed to do. We catch up to Humperdinck, and he also has a red flashing light. So we've got over 50% of ERS at this point. So we are definitely managing our ERS a lot better than we were at Zandvoort. We're using it in the right places, we're not using it in the right places, and because of that we've got a lot of ERS to really use to push past Humperdinck here. Ideally, I would have liked to get a better run out of the first corner so we didn't have to use as much ERS to pass him, but it is what it is. We ended up using roughly about 20% ERS to get past him, and now we've got to try and break his DRS. That's the main goal that I want to achieve here. We've got a lot of ERS, he doesn't really have that much ERS. We need to use our fuel and ERS at this point to really try and break out the DRS, because if we can, then that pretty much secures our position ahead of Humperdinck. And you can actually see that Stubbs ahead of us has a 3-second time penalty as well, so we're in P5, a net P5 at this point. And as we move on to lap 16, you can see we're roughly about 8 tenths. We just couldn't really do that final little bit of work that we needed to do to really break outside of that DRS, which was starting to get a little bit frustrating, because I knew that Humperdinck was saving his fuel, saving his ERS while staying in our DRS to really attack us towards the end, and we were slowly running out. As you can see, moving on to lap 19 now, there is a yellow flag. We are just outside of the DRS of Humperdinck, and a safety car comes out. So in all honesty, you might look at this and say, okay, this has kind of screwed me over, but it's actually helped me. It's actually saved me, because as I said, I was running out of fuel, I was running out of ERS, whilst Humperdinck was able to save his own. And because of the safety car, I can now save fuel, because I'm obviously going to stay out. There's no point in pitting. I'm going to be saving my fuel, saving my ERS, so that I can really push for the final 2 laps to keep the position from Humperdinck. And that's exactly what ends up happening here. You can see on the safety car restart, we've got plenty of fuel, we've got pretty much a full battery of ERS now, So we can really just take these last 2 laps with a little bit more caution. We can use the ERS when we need to. You can see that EKE in ahead of us has a 3-second time penalty, and from what I gather from someone who told me after the race, Tom, VRT Tom, who I believe is in the lead at the moment, he did also have a penalty, so we're in a net P2. But coming up to lap 21 now, yeah, I go wide at the 2 corners, finishing off sector 2, and yeah, we get a 3-second time penalty. And honestly, I was so angry at this point. My worst enemy, it seems, it's myself. You know, I performed a very good race here. I definitely felt that I deserved P2 or even P3. We definitely deserved the podium with the drive that we had in this race, and to lose it all pretty much on the penultimate lap because of a stupid mistake. Yeah, it really annoyed me. And as you can see, coming up to the final bus stop chicane, we end up getting tagged by Humperdinck behind us, and as we cross the line, we finish in P5. We end up taking a position from Caesar, and we end up falling back down the rankings to P7. So we pretty much started in P7 and finished in P7, and we pretty much gave away 5 positions because of that penalty. And it was really heartbreaking. Obviously, having a break and coming back and then having a drive as good as that, I definitely didn't expect to drive as well as that because of the break. But I feel as if we definitely deserved the podium there, and to lose it all on the penultimate lap really was heartbreaking. But yeah, this is where the video is going to end, guys. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel and you're still watching and you want to see more league racing content going into F1 2021, make sure to smash that subscribe button, because I will be posting a lot of league racing content once the new game comes out especially. And I hope to see you guys soon in my next video.